Westside Decorating Center. Good morning to you. We're out and about again today, broadcasting from Michigan Sugar in Bay City, where they are introducing their brand new molasses desugarization facility. It will remove about 80% of the sugar from molasses. We'll tell you more about that later on, because after the 10 o'clock news, the president of Michigan Sugar, Neil Junke, will be with us, as well as the vice president of operations, Nick Klein. At 11 o'clock this morning, speaking of Westside Decorating Center, we'll talk to Mike Stoddard from Westside Decorating on Focus. And Terry Henney will be along with his farm shows. All of that happening here from Michigan Sugar, but for this hour, we're going to talk about Bay City from the standpoint of public safety, police and fire. We have a couple of guests with us this morning to do that. First of all, we say good morning to the Director of Public Safety in Bay City, and he is Caleb Rowell. Caleb, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And also with us is the Fire Chief, and we say good morning to Kurt Gallardi. Chief, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being with us today. All right, I guess we have to start with the most recent news, which we had on our newscast, and I know others did too, and that's the closing of Station 5 in Bay City. What brought that about, and what does it mean to the community?
It's been kind of a several-year discussion talking about Station 5. Let me start with all of our fire stations. We have 4 currently. With 5 being closed, it's down to 3. But all of our stations are pretty old. Station 2 being the oldest, and they're kind of in rough shape and haven't been well maintained over the years, let's say. So there are a lot of expensive repairs needed because it's deteriorated so much over the years that it's been difficult within the budget to try and address all of them. With that being said, Station 5 is kind of the by far the least busy station. If you combine Station 4 and Station 5, it's still not as busy as the other stations by themselves. So,
and where is Station 5 located?
Up on Smith Street in the Banks area of on the west side of Bay City, northwest area.
So, Chief, what does that do to your response times?
To be honest with you, it doesn't change them a whole lot. Obviously, if you live right next door to the fire station,
yeah,
it might be a little bit longer. But as far as I look at it from a citywide perspective, and on the west side, we've closed Station 5 in the past for a few years, and actually during COVID, for like a 4-month period, we ran all of our medicals out of Station 1 with a rescue vehicle, which is quicker to respond, smaller, not a big fire truck. And our response times were actually, on average, during that 4-month period, lower than they have been this year for just Station 5's area. So, we've done it in the past, and on the whole, it's generally a lower average when responding with a rescue vehicle versus responding with a full-size fire engine.
With the advent of public safety as opposed to police and fire, Chief Gallardi, how does that impact the fire department? And you've worked both sides of this aisle, so you would know.
So, when we're looking at public safety as a whole, I think you can relate that to a paid-on-call fire department, combination fire department. So we have our career firefighters. So we have anywhere from 5 is our minimum staffing for the day, and 7 is our full staffing for the day. So
paid,
correct.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So the lowest we work with during the day would be 5, and then the most we would have on shift would be 7, and those are individuals assigned to fire suppression. So we also have a fire marshal on top of that, myself, that are 40-hour employees. So it is very similar to a paid-on-call department. We get a structure fire, no different than using Monitor Township as an example. They have a few full-timers, and their paid-on-calls come in to backfill. So that's essentially how it works here. It is important to have the career full-time firefighters. We always have an engineer. We always have an incident commander, and we're always going to have that initial attack crew to go in and make a push on a fire. So it's important that we keep that.
Differences in public safety, of course. Your police officers have turnout gear in the trunk.
Correct.
And how does that work? Does it work well for you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with public safety, which is different than paid on call, is sometimes the public safety officer just can't respond because they're on another emergency. But, most of the time they're able to clear whatever they're on to respond to the fire, put their gear on, and go to work to assist the full-time fires that's already there.
Do you folks use any paid on call outside of the public safety department, or is everybody employed by the department one way or another?
We currently don't have any paid on call firefighters, so everybody that works is a full-time paid city employee.
It's interesting because you talk to a lot of fire chiefs and a lot of departments. There's a struggle finding firefighters today, isn't there? As there is police officers. We'll get to that.
So the biggest issue I think we're facing in the fire service is recruitment and retention, and it's a systemic problem, not just a problem we have here in Bay City. I could look back through the records. In 2007, we hired 350 applicants. I had 20 applicants for the last position we had open. So, and that's a career with a pension and benefits. So when you look at your smaller rural paid-on-call fire departments, they're really struggling. Training requirements are increasing. People don't donate their time to public service like they used to. When I started almost 30 years ago, there was a wait list to get on the volunteer fire department. Those days are long gone.
Yeah, what happened? I mean, I can remember growing up as a kid, which is long before either you guys were around, but I grew up in New York City. And I can remember growing up, and myself and my friends, we all wanted to be firefighters, police officers. I mean, that was the thing back in the day, What happened?
I think if we knew that answer, it would make this a little easier. I mean, it's something that we're working diligently with the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs. We've received a grant, a federal grant to address recruitment and retention in northern Michigan, but it's still a struggle. People just aren't going to these organizations and signing up. It's a huge time commitment. It's at a minimum 242 hours to obtain that firefighter 1 and 2 certification.
Which is required in Michigan.
It's required. And so if you're working a 40-hour job and then you need to do that, Tuesday and Thursday nights and then all day Saturday, it's a huge time commitment for individuals. So what specifically is the decline? I don't know, but it's been significant.
How does it impact the police side and having to hire a police officer who's also going to be a public safety officer? Has that impacted recruitment?
It's really hard to tell. We've obviously every police agency across the country has struggled with recruitment, so it's hard to tell if the fire portion plays a role in that or not. We've been, when I first became public safety director, probably almost 2 years ago, we've been down up to 15 people, at one point, and currently we're fully staffed. But the big reason for that is because the state of Michigan kind of came up big and allowed us to sponsor people to the academy.
I was just going to ask, are you paying for the academy?
Right.
A lot of departments are now.
Yep, we sign them up and we get a good portion of that back from the state. However, this fall academy, we have 4 people going to it, and it's probably the end of the money at this point, so we're kind of encouraging the representatives to renew that.
So the big question is, when they get out of the academy and you get them on your department, can you keep them, or are other departments cherry picking them?
Well, in this region, I like to think we're one of the better departments to work for. We don't often lose people that leave, voluntarily for other places. However, historically, once they get out of the academy and are in our field training program, only about 2/3 of the people we hire actually complete it successfully. So,
yeah, that's what you have to realize. It's more than an academy. It's like a double academy almost.
Right. There's a lot of steps, and especially, here you have to do the police academy, you have to do the fire academy, and you have to do field training. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through. By the time they get through, they're ready to go, well trained.
We are at Michigan Sugar. We're talking to the Department of Public Safety in Bay City's chief, and he is Caleb Rowell, and the fire chief, Nick Collardi. Kurt Collardi, I should say, and we will be back with them after these notes. We will tell you that we are here at Michigan Sugar because today they are introducing their brand new molasses desugarization facility. And this facility will now take about 80% of the sugar that's contained in molasses and be able to be marketed. The molasses will still have a sugar content, so they can still sell the molasses, but they will extract most of the sugar out of it, which then goes to enhance their production here at Michigan Sugar. Later on, after the 10 o'clock news, we'll have the president and vice president of Michigan Sugar on to talk about this new facility. And Terry Henney will be here with his farm show later on, too. We'll be back after these notes.
Retire
And we are back with you, broadcasting from the Michigan Sugar facility in Bay City and their new molasses desugarization facility, which we'll talk about later on. With me this morning, the director of the Department of Public Safety in Bay City, and he is Chief Rowell. And also with us this morning from the fire department in Bay City, Chief Karate. And we were talking about the recruiting police officers. And one of the things, if there's been a significant change, as I see it anyway, in policing, it's the amount of females who we've been able to attract into the service. That's been huge, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. We've had more, applicants over the years, and thankfully we've been able to hire, a decent amount. I think we have another one going to the academy this fall, who we're excited to get. Adds a different perspective to a lot of the calls. It's very helpful to have as diverse a population as you can in the police department.
So let's talk about someone who might be interested in policing or public safety as you guys have it. What are the requirements, the basic requirements, just to start applying?
For us, it's different
Right.
elsewhere, but for us, you have to have at least 60 credits of college or prior military experience. So that's, the low bar. You don't need any experience in policing, firefighting, any of that nature. You just need to have at least 60 credits of college and or military experience.
And then what happens? They apply. They have to take certain tests to get in, I assume.
Yeah, there's
Physical and
application process. MCOLS has a physical test and a reading and writing test. We also have them do a writing, sample when we interview them, because obviously writing is a big part of the job. So you have a lot of hoops to jump through: a background investigation, a psychological evaluation, a physical. It's quite a process.
And that's only the beginning, because from there they then go to the academy.
Correct.
And the
Yep.
academy is how long?
I believe it's 16 weeks now. It's changed quite a bit over the years. I think probably 30 years ago it was like 10 or 12 weeks. Now it's they add more to it each year, it seems like.
And there's a lot of education.
Yes, absolutely.
There's all kinds of sides to policing.
Yes, yep. There's a lot of things they have to learn now from they're kind of a jack of all trades, because especially the middle of the night, people call 911 no matter what the issue is, and the police are expected to be an expert in that field.
So they complete the academy as a police officer. So Chief Karate, what do they do next to get their fire certification?
So when they complete the police academy, we offer an in-house fire academy. So that's 10 weeks long.
Oh, you do it in-house?
We do it in-house. So we used to send them out to a county-wide academy. The cost made that difficult to do. That required the director to pay overtime to those individuals to attend an academy. Back then, we didn't have near the fire instructors that we do today. I believe I have 13 or 14 fire instructors within the organization currently. So I believe it was 2019 or 20, my first year or two as a fire chief, we decided to run our own academy. And there's been so many huge benefits to that. So our individuals are trained on our equipment by our own personnel. They understand how Bay City operates. The little things, how we stretch a hand line for fire attack, how we wrap a fire hydrant in Bay City. All of those small details add up to big things in the end. So beyond the training, they're building bonds in that fire academy as well. So the new police officers are coming in and they're building bonds with the fire personnel. And I think that's probably what we would look at as one of the biggest positive changes that we've had. I know, at least as long as Director Rowell and I have been here, seeing that come to fruition and the bonds that these individuals are building with each other right off the start. And they're well trained. I mean, I have fantastic instructors that work for us in the fire division, and it's just an outstanding academy.
So these young folks come out of the academy. Now they're partnered with an FTO. Are they doing a fire academy at the same time they're doing their FTO?
Well, we've done it a few different ways. We never do it at the same time. When we do the fire academy, it's full time for those 10 weeks.
That's
what they do. But sometimes it's before FTO. It's just a matter. We generally like to have at least 10 people to put in a fire academy to make it. I think the state requires that, and there's 7 or 8 at least. And then get them that training specifically, and then they can focus on FTO after that, or vice versa.
Because once they're done with the academy and the fire academy, they're ready for the FTO and they're fully qualified for both sides.
Correct.
Typically, how big a department do you have? You said you're fully staffed now. How many?
77 is our total between police and fire. It's 57 police and 21. That's 78 then, sorry.
Now, do you have, Saginaw has their department, but they also have state police in that special cities program that was set up by the state. You don't have state police doing that on a regular basis, do you?
No. State police and county are always here to help
Yeah.
whenever needed, but they're not necessarily assigned here.
They don't have specific patrol here.
No.
Yeah. And your department, you mentioned, of course, early on the reason for Station 5 going down and other things is dollars and cents. And budgets, they're tough these days, aren't they?
Absolutely. It's always,
The fire chief is laughing.
We found ourselves in a position where we're essentially putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole on a lot of our infrastructure-related projects. So when you look at the line items you have for building maintenance, it doesn't take long to go through that when you have a roof at headquarters currently that needs to be replaced, which is a six-figure project. The list is so long. We have an average fire station age of just over 60 years.
Oh, wow.
So the newest station we have is Fire Station 1 that was built in 1973. So that's our newest station. So that upkeep really taxes the budget.
Has there been any thought to a public safety millage, or do you have anything like it?
That's kind of, I guess, beyond our control. I know there has been talk of it with the commission in the past. It's never really come to fruition. Will there be talk of it again? I don't know.
Because I know when Saginaw got theirs, I'm on the Saginaw County Crime Prevention Council, and one of our subcommittees, we brought in legislators to get them to change the home rule law,
Yeah.
so they could have that public safety millage.
Yes.
Because they don't have a public safety department, but they have a public safety millage, which goes to
Right.
both departments.
Mm-hmm.
In Bay City, when you look at your department and you look at the fire department, structurally, do you see anything you'd like to change?
I think our stations should match our staffing, number one, and our infrastructure. I'd like to give the people a nice place to work. Right now, Station 5, to me, I would not want to sleep there. You walk in and it stinks. It smells like mildew, it smells like mold. There's water that's been leaking in there for years. I just
wow.
don't. It's not
healthy.
Even if it was a good idea to keep it open, I don't want to put people in there, and they shouldn't be asked to be in there, in my opinion. The one thing I would change is to consolidate to match our staffing. When I started here, we had 60-some firefighters and 80-some police officers. Now, we're half that and still providing the same amount of service. The personnel that we have is tremendous. I can't say enough about, the full-time firefighters that go out there. They still hit houses with 3 people, 4 people there, and get that fire out very aggressively. They're some of the best. I'll put them up against anybody. But you can't expect to continue to get the same number of service from 70 people that you got from 140.
Or half the budget.
Correct.
So, looking at that, Chief Girardi, you have these firehouses that have been around a long, long time. They're not forever. So what happens when you have to take another one off service? How do you find the funds to build a new one?
So again, it's similar to that public safety millage discussion. Finding that funding that's a little bit above the director and our head. We work within the system that we're given. We work within that budget, and I can't say that we haven't made some strides, but I can also tell you that inflation has had a big hit on how we operate.
For everybody.
For an example, in January of 21, I was looking to replace one of the smaller ladder trucks we have. It was about $800,000 then.
Yeah.
That truck today is $1.4 million.
Well, I'll make you feel bad. In 1966, 67, the department I was in brought a brand new Mac for $30,000.
Yeah, we purchased an engine at the end of 21 for around $550,000. That same engine today is almost $900,000.
Yeah, Do you get federal funding
No,
to help at all?
no.
We have had federal funding as far as our air packs.
Air-
Some of the accessory equipment.
Some of the
yeah.
equipment, and that's air packs are extremely
cheap.
expensive.
Everything is expensive today.
Correct.
We're going to take a break. Be back with our guests as we broadcast from Michigan Sugar in Bay City. And we will have more right after these notes here on WSGW. And let me take a moment to tell you about Quick Lane Freeland. Next to my car dealer, McDonald Ford. Quick Lane Freeland is where you will find all of your routine maintenance. Everything from oil changes to filters and batteries, brakes, and the like. And they also have something else called FrigiFresh. Now, FrigiFresh is a hospital disinfectant that's put into your air conditioning system. It kills germs, odor, mildew, you name it, and it keeps you healthy inside your car. Couple that with the fact that you also have a cabin air filter in your car. Most newer cars have them. And you want to have that checked at the same time you get FrigiFresh. FrigiFresh is only $20, takes 10 minutes. You don't need an appointment. You just drive into Quick Lane Freeland and ask for it. It's that simple, and you'll feel healthy as you drive down the road. Quick Lane Freeland, right next to McDonald Ford on M47. And remember this, they work on all makes and models of cars and trucks to keep them in tip-top shape. Stop in today to Quick Lane Freeland. And we're back with you, broadcasting from Michigan Sugar in Bay City, where they're going to introduce their brand new molasses desugarization facility. We're talking to Bay City Department of Public Safety Chief, and he is Chief Rowell, and also with us from the Fire Department in Bay City is Chief Karate. You have some events coming up for the public to actually come out and take a look at some of these facilities.
Yes, sir. And we'll be posting it on our Facebook page soon, but throughout September we have 4 different dates where people can come check out the 4 different stations, even the Station 5 that's closed, to see for yourself what kind of condition it's in if you'd like to do that.
Were you going to open Station 5 for the public to look at?
Yep.
That'll be an eye-opener, won't it?
Exactly, yes. They can see exactly one of the reasons why we're no longer inhabiting that station.
So when is it, and what's the tour like?
I don't have the dates directly right here in front of me, but September
3rd and 4th and 17th and 18th. I
2
believe.
different weekends.
During
the week.
Yep, from 4 to 6
4 to
p.m.
6.
Public's invited?
Yep, we'll have staff on site to provide tours, answer any questions that the public may have. Like the director said, I think it would provide some insight into the public and just the age of these stations. And maybe it's little things, but if you look at Station 1 at 51 years of age with original windows and still have the original carpet in the bunk room where our firefighters sleep. So definitely outdated. And I think it's always easier to come and see for yourself. I mean, you can hear from us, but we're going to open the doors up and invite people to come and take a walk through.
You mentioned firefighters sleeping, Chief, and I don't know that the public realizes just how difficult it is. I've heard people say, they sleep all day, The reason they sleep in is the shifts are what, 24 hour? Do you run 24-hour shifts, 24 on?
So we run 24 on. A normal shift for, particular for the A shift, for example, would be 24 on, 24 off, 24 on, 24 off, and then 24 on and 4 days off. So And when we talk about sleeping, I wouldn't consider what our firefighters do.
I've done it. I wouldn't either.
You know, our station, we're busy. You know, we're pushing that 6,000 calls a year mark.
Wow.
Station 1, Station 2, 4, now they're not sleeping through the night. There's been so many studies on sleep deprivation and how that affects firefighters, and it's a fact. I look at these gentlemen at shift change in the morning when we're leaving, and they're exhausted. You know, that sleeping for an hour and then having those tones wake you up out of a dead sleep, and you know, and they're expected to perform at that high level, whether it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning. But it definitely does take a toll on our personnel.
Back in the day when I was in the fire department, it was a volunteer department. I was trained as a chauffeur engineer, and I lived practically around the corner from the firehouse. We had plectrons, tone generated that knocked you out of bed. I mean, it knocked you out of bed, and your wife, who wasn't too thrilled about it. But and it's the same thing in your fire stations. You have tone generations, right?
So it is. There's been several studies on the effect that those tones have on heart health. That's something that we would like to update to part of the infrastructure plan. Is they have now what's called heart healthy tones, where they start out at a little bit lower level. The lights will activate instead of, we still have similar to a plectron. So when it goes off, it's full blast.
Yeah.
So we are looking to hopefully improve some of that for our firefighters moving forward.
And I noticed in doing ride-alongs with the Saginaw Fire Department, middle of the night, and you're upstairs in a bunk, you get tuned to that firehouse. For example, when theirs goes off, there's an audible click before the lights come on, and then the announcement comes on. You wake up to the click.
Correct.
You really just tune yourself for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you struggle to get your gear on again. You don't have that problem in the police department, do you?
No, hopefully not.
What kinds of shifts do your officers work?
They work 12-hour shifts, so 12 on, then the night shift comes in, so it's just 2 different shifts, and 4 different rotations, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
And they're working how many hours a day?
12.
They work 12, how many shifts? 12, 12, 12? Or?
It's kind of a 2-week rotation, so they're 2 on, 2 off, 3 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off.
Why do departments do that? What's the advantage to that?
Well, in law enforcement, you work a lot of holidays, you work a lot of weekends. To be able to give people a 3-day weekend every other week makes it worth working the 12-hour shifts. And in most people's opinion, the officers like it. They prefer it over the traditional 8-hour schedule, where you might not get a weekend off for 2 months, and then
So they always, every 2 weeks, they're going to have a weekend.
Provided they don't get ordered into work.
Yeah, well, now who would do that?
Well,
who would do such a
we have a
thing?
lot of events in Bay City, so.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We'll talk about some of that. We're going to take a break, come back and finish up with our guests from the Bay City Department of Public Safety and Fire Department after these notes on the Art Lewis Show.
Getting quality employees to fill
Hi, we're back with you here at Michigan Sugar, talking to the Director of Department of Public Safety in Bay City, Chief Rowell, and also with us from the Fire Department, Chief Garardi. And let's go over those dates again, because I know you just got confirmation of them, right?
That's right, yeah. I'll give you the specific stations, too. So
And these are for open house for the public.
correct. Station 1 is September 3rd. Station 2 is September 4th. Station 4 is September 17th, and Station 5 is September 18th, and it's all 4 to 6 p.m.
And 4 to 6 p.m., they'll be able to go through the station, see the equipment, do all of that stuff.
Correct. They'll get a guided tour.
And firefighters will be there to answer questions?
Correct.
Provided they're not on calls.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
because the equipment won't be there either if they are.
Correct.
Yes, you can't control that, but
Do you guys participate in anything like the National Night Out?
absolutely. Coming up August 6th,
Yep.
which is next Tuesday, it will be a very large event. Our community policing officers do a tremendous job of organizing that, and people from every department in the city will be there, and every year it seems to get bigger and bigger. I don't know how how much more it can grow, because
Where do you
Winona
do it?
Park is packed.
It's Winona Park?
Yep.
Yeah, because we do it in Saginaw at the soccer complex. The
Yeah.
same night.
Yes.
Same night. And it's, when you think about it, for most of the public, majority of time when they interact with a police officer, it's negative.
Correct. Yep.
And this is an opportunity to meet these folks as humans, as people.
Correct. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. It's a great thing that was started several years ago, and like I say, it keeps getting bigger every year. It's an absolutely fabulous event. And it's all free. So anybody that comes out, you get food, you get all sorts of treats. And it's all free.
My late wife was from Reading, Pennsylvania, so we used to drive there every year. We'd stop at some of the rest areas on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and one time we stopped, and she took the dog out to walk the dog, and a state trooper pulled up behind the car in the parking lot and started talking to her, just real friendly, nice guy, So I came out and was chatting with him, and at the end of the conversation, he said, I got to get back to work so I can tick off the public one person at a time.
Sometimes that's how it feels.
And it's unfortunate, but that's the image. And then the other image, of course, is the news, which, it talks about the bad apples, never the good ones.
Correct.
Tens of thousands of good ones, and you hear about a few bad ones. And that's impacted recruiting, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Who wants to be a part of a profession that's been, I guess, demonized, to put it politely? And it's not the case. I've been an officer for over 25 years, and there are some amazing people that I've run into both at this department and at other departments. And the vast majority of officers are excellent people that want to serve their community.
That's the key.
And make a difference.
They all want to serve their communities, and it's true of firefighters too, isn't it, Chief?
Oh, absolutely. I was fortunate to see both sides of it, the law enforcement side and the fire side as well. And it is different. As a firefighter, our personnel is treated much differently than I was treated as a law enforcement officer. So I have a lot of respect for all of our police officers that are out there. It's a tough job. I know that firsthand. Both of them are difficult, but there's definitely a different reaction, it seems like, from the public, police versus fire.
And, I'm a member of the media, and the media has to take some blame for it because they've sensationalized it to the point where it's excessive. I mean, it doesn't tell the whole story. Yeah, there's bad apples, but that's true in every profession.
Correct.
And it's a shame that that makes all the headlines, because it impacts all those people out there that put the uniform every day, go out and protect the citizens of their community in a way that's responsible and effective. So
Yes.
let's just go back to the beginning where we started. This was all brought about because Station 5 is closing. Tell everybody again why it closed and how that's going to impact response times.
As I said before, the average response time throughout the city is not going to change. I am very confident in that. We have mutual aid with all the surrounding agencies that will help us if needed, but using a smaller rescue-type vehicle to respond to medicals makes it more efficient, makes our apparatus last longer, saves money in the long run, and still provides the same level of high service to the community.
Now, your medical responders, they're not ambulances, right? They're first on-scene responders?
Correct. They're assisting ambulance crews is what their
You
their
respond
role
to
is.
all
medical
medical
calls. Yes.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's why you got those thousands of
of the 6,000
calls.
calls we go to, most of them, the vast majority, are medical calls.
Yeah, the department I was in New Jersey, we had 4 ambulances, and out of our thousands of calls, most of them were medical.
Yeah.
Which was, interesting at the time because we didn't have the paramedics you have today and all that. It was load them and take them, and
Right.
but you still had to do the job. Somebody had to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps us busy, and we're frequently on scene before the ambulance company. So if we have a cardiac arrest, our individuals are there providing care to that resident. We have an outstanding group of paramedics and EMTs that work for the organization.
On both sides, police and fire.
No, just
the fire.
Just
They're all
the fire side.
Yeah.
Yep. We have 3 or 4 of our personnel are nurses as well. They've taken that upon themselves to get that higher education. One is a nurse for flight care. So we just have some high quality medical providers out there working within the community.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your day to come and visit us.
Appreciate you having us.
Yes, thank
Chief
you.
Rowell, Chief Girardi, thank you, and we wish you well. We hope you find a bigger budget at some point in the future.
If I could just give a quick plug,
Please do.
Our Citizens Public Safety Academy
yeah.
is starting once
Yeah.
again. September 4th, we're reviving it. It's been several years since we've done it, and it's a great opportunity for somebody to get an inside look at from firearms to evasive driving to use of force to firefighting to all of it.
What's the time commitment? Because I know Saginaw Township does something like that,
Yep,
too.
it's once a week, Wednesday from like 6 to 9, I believe, are the hours. It starts September 4th. Our applications are out. You just have to live or work in Bay City. Go to our Facebook page. You can find a place to apply. And
you literally will see all facets of policing, won't you?
absolutely. It'll be an eye-opening experience for anybody that does it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Chief Rowell, thanks for being with us. Chief Girardi, thank you very much.
Welcome. Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
You bet. We'll take our last break, and then we will be back to tell you what's ahead.
My mom's my best friend.
All right, back with you on the Art Lewis Show. As I mentioned earlier, we're broadcasting today from Michigan Sugar, where they're going to introduce their new molasses desugarization facility. We'll tell you more about that next hour when we welcome the president and CEO of the company, Neil Junkie, and also the vice president of operations will be with us, Nick Klein. All of that coming up. Also this morning after the 11 o'clock news on Focus, we'll talk to Mike Stoddard from Westside Decorating Center. You've heard us talk about Mike. He sponsors our program, and they have an expanded showroom, expanded product lines, and we'll talk about some of those product lines with him. That will be coming up after the 11 o'clock news. It is a beautiful day here in Bay City. Crystal blue skies except for that little smoke haze that's been hanging over us from the west. And they're going to have some dignitaries and invited guests here to see this brand new facility, which, as I understand it, and we'll find out more about it next hour, will allow them to extract about 80% of the sugar out of molasses, which adds, of course, to their production. So we will talk about that next hour. All of that happens after the news. First from CBS, they'll bring you up to date on the world and the nation. And then Michael Percha in the newsroom will bring you up to date on the region and the state. And we'll be back with more from Michigan Sugar right after the news.
Broadcasting from the Storm
Collins Aerospace. Protests in the West Bank city of Ramallah after an airstrike allegedly orchestrated by Israel that killed a key Hamas leader in Iran. CBS's Imtiaz Tayyab from Beirut.
Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's political chief, has been a key negotiator for a ceasefire and hostage release deal with Israel. But now any potential agreement is in major jeopardy.
The Attorney General for Washington, D.C. is suing StubHub for drip pricing, allegedly pitching low prices, then boosting the advertised cost of tickets by more than 40% by tacking on extra fees at the last minute. Attorney General Brian Schwab.
Over the course since 2015, StubHub's collected close to $120 million in hidden illegal fees. It violates the law, and that's why it's essential that we stop that behavior.
Olympic triathletes finally waded into the water in Paris today for competition. CBS's Wendy Gillette is there.
That's a worker drawing a water sample from the Seine River. After heavy rain over the weekend, bacteria levels were deemed safe enough for the men's and women's triathlons to be held this morning. Former triathlete Renee Tomlin from Arkansas watched the women's race.
I think these athletes, they're professionals. They've been on the circuit. They know what it's like to compete in water all across the globe that, might be dirty at some times.
Broward County, Florida school employee Jessica Norton speaking out after she was suspended for violating the state's Fairness in Women's Sports Act, letting her transgendered daughter play on the girls' volleyball team.
I wasn't fired. I wasn't terminated. So kind of triumphant. I fought back. Do I think their decision was correct? I don't.
The Dow down 60. This is CBS News.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Get renter's insurance to protect the things that make your place a home, including coverage for theft or damage. Visit Progressive.com.
Dan owed an unbelievable
Live from the 100.5 and 790 newsroom. This is WSGW News.
Sunny skies and 78 degrees at 10:05. Good morning. I'm Mike Percha. Authorities in Gladwin County are investigating a crash that claimed the lives of 2 men on Monday. Emergency responders were dispatched to the intersection of South Hockaday and West Howard Roads around 6:15 p.m. The Sheriff's Department says a 2000 Volkswagen Jetta driven by a 48-year-old Coleman man was traveling west on Howard when it failed to stop at the intersection and crashed into a 2004 Suzuki XL7 driven by a 73-year-old Beaverton man. Investigators say both vehicles went off the road and came to rest near the corner. Attempts were made to save both men's lives. Officials say the 73-year-old was pronounced dead at the scene. The 48-year-old was taken to a hospital where he died of his injuries. No passengers were involved in the crash, which remains under investigation. A Tuscola County fire chief may face repercussions from a village council after his teenage son crashed a fire department pickup truck last Thursday. Police say the 17-year-old boy, son of Fire Chief Terry Blackmer in the village of Mayville, and a probationary firefighter, took the truck without authorization for personal reasons last week. He and 2 14-year-old passengers headed north on Leaks Road near Saginaw Road around 12:30 in the morning when the truck left the road, struck a tree, and went into a ditch. Police say no one was hurt in the crash, though the pickup sustained some damage. According to police, alcohol was not a factor. The teen was cited for the crash. The Michigan Department of Transportation is hosting an online career fair today from 4 to 7 p.m. From engineering to administration, there are diverse roles to match skills and interests. The virtual session is open to the public and MDOT employees. Registration is required. Visit michigan.gov/MDCS/state employment and look for the career calendar. WSGW News Time 10:07.
ready to save big at the pump.
SGW News Time 10:08. The weather forecast is coming up. Bond has been revoked for a fake West Michigan nurse. An Allegan County woman who pleaded guilty to identity theft allegedly skipped her sentencing last week. 49-year-old Leticia Galarzo is expected to be arrested when she returns to court and will be rescheduled at that time. Galarzo used a legitimate license of a friend to earn a nursing job. She faces up to 7 years in prison. Michigan's Attorney General is still working to limit a proposed DTE rate hike. Here's Michigan News Network's Jeremy Jenkins.
Dana Nessel filing a testimony to Michigan's Public Service Commission last week, asking them to vastly reduce the proposed 10% rate hike DTE is asking for. Nessel is proposing reducing that to 2.5%, or $139.5 million, rather than the $456.4 million the energy company asked for in March. DTE asking for the rate increase just 4 months after being granted an annual hike of $368 million. Nessel says the rate hike would be unnecessary and excessive. The MPSC is still weighing both Nessel and DTE's positions. Jeremy Jenkins for the Michigan News Network.
A man who was allegedly living illegally in the U.S. has been charged with sexually assaulting his young daughter in Macomb County. Joel Quintana Dominguez of Shelby Township was arraigned earlier this month on 3 counts of first-degree criminal sexual conduct. Prosecutor Pete Lucido announced yesterday. The prosecutor's office says the 32-year-old sexually assaulted his daughter on multiple occasions this year. The victim's age has not been released. Bond is set at $500,000. Detectives were notified that he had entered the country illegally and had previously been deported. However, officials have not disclosed any other details. WSGW News Time at 10:10. I'm Mike Percha.
After 11 o'clock on Focus today, when Mike Stoddard from Westside Decorating joins us. We're on the road today to Michigan Sugar in Bay City, where they are introducing to the community their brand new molasses desugarization facility. We're going to learn about that and a lot more about the sugar business because we have some very special guests with us this morning. First of all, the president and CEO of Michigan Sugar, Neil Junkie. Neil, good morning.
Good morning, Art. How are you?
We're great. Thanks for having us today. Also with us, the Vice President of Operations, we say good morning to Nick Klein. Nick, good morning.
Good morning, Art.
All right. We are sitting here in a facility It's been here how long? Michigan Sugar's been on this location in Bay City, would you guess?
Since 1906.
1906. Here we are in 2024, and you have built a brand new facility on site that you've never had before, right?
Correct.
This is a molasses desugarization facility, which is a lot of words which most of us don't understand. So explain to us what this new facility is all about and why you built it.
Yeah, so what this facility does is it's really our second swipe or second chance at removing sugar from molasses. When we process sugar beets, they come into the factory and we extract the sugar and granulate that, and that's what you buy on your shelves. And then there's pulp from the beet that is converted into an animal feed that we sell, and then the rest of the product becomes non-sugars that goes into what we call molasses. And in the molasses, we do lose about 10% of the sugar as well that came in with the beet. So the molasses desugarization process, technically it's called a chromatographic separation process, but really what we're doing is we're just separating sugar from non-sugars, and we're putting that sugar back into a juice form, which we can then later granulate and put it again back out on the shelf in the store.
My education was chemical engineering, and I had one of your engineers on years ago, and we were talking about chemical engineering, and he says, well, how would you explain it? I said, well, we take what the guys do in the lab in small test tubes and make it big. And basically that's what this is. This is a big result of lab research on how to get that sugar out. Is that not true?
Yeah, we're using state-of-the-art technology to do that process.
So how much are we talking about in terms of percentages? If you get that, after you're done processing in the main plant, you had that molasses, how much sugar have you taken out in the main plant?
Yep, so of 100% of the sugar that comes in with the beet, we can extract between 80 and 85% of that sugar in the first go.
And that includes what comes out of the molasses?
That includes what comes out. Then the molasses comes over to this facility, and we have the ability to extract another 10%. So we can get upwards of 95% of the sugar that came in with the beet out and into a bag.
So obviously, maybe that's the wrong word, but obviously to have a facility to take out 10% of the sugar, for the amount of molasses you get, that's a lot of sugar.
About 80 million more pounds a year with this
80 million
facility.
more pounds?
Yep.
That explains it. That explains it. How long does it take, Neil, to develop a facility like this from the time it's first thought of till the time you can sit here and say, look, we're open?
Well,
what's the process?
Normally you do your economic and financial feasibility work. You'd have to have some engineering, upfront engineering, to get the project budget. That phase can take 6 to 9 months. Detailed engineering and procurement phase to get to a final budget before you can actually approve, go to the board of directors, maybe another 6 to 9 months. So up front, 12 to 18 months of development time before you can ask for authorization. At post-authorization, you hire all the contractors, order the equipment, and it's another 18 months to 2 years. So it's a 3 to 4 year process to build something this large. Our total investment here, direct capital investment, is $109 million. And
just on this facility, this building?
Just on this facility, yep. Mm-hmm.
Now, at the same time you're doing that, you're making improvements to all your plants, aren't you?
We are, absolutely. Every year we have maintenance capital requirements, budgets of between $24 and $30 million in the plants. Most of that is for maintenance replacement of worn out assets. Some of it goes towards other process improvements and automation. And most recently here in the last 6 or 8 years, we've also made an upgrade to the Croswell factory that totaled more than $80 million.
How many factories are you operating now?
We operate 4 factories.
They are where?
They're here in Bay City, Sebowing, Caro, and Croswell.
And then you have a facility in Carlton that used to be a plant.
We do, yep. The Carlton sugar beet processing facility was shut down in the early 2000s. However, we still use the storage silos. We store sugar there, and we still process powdered sugar there in Carlton as well.
So it still does have a factory.
Yeah, it has 15 or 20 employees there. Yep.
So let me ask you this. If I took you back, won't go back to 06 when this was built, but if I took you back 50 years, is the method of extracting sugar 50 years ago different than it now is today?
I'd say in the past 50 years, the overall method hasn't changed all that much. Really, since Michigan Sugar was founded, it hasn't changed all that much. We're just harnessing new technology to do a better job at extracting the sugar, processing the crop, and a little bit more of a timeline that fits with the climates here in Michigan.
And what about the growing of sugar beets? Has that changed much? The yields are better now, aren't they?
Now, the sugar beet production is where we've seen the majority of the advancements that have really moved the needle for the industry. We have, about 15 years ago, adopted GMO sugar beets, and so that provided a huge boost in yield and in quality, and reduced the amount of pesticide that we had to apply to the crop. Weed control improved. Now, more recently, the seed companies have found varieties that are resistant to one of the main diseases that can affect sugar beets. That's something called Cercospora leaf spot. It's a fungal disease that produces spots on the leaves. Well, they found genetics in a related plant, and they've been able to breed that into what they're selling here for seed, and basically really reduce the impact of that fungal disease in the field.
With all of that said, is the grain of sugar you extract today that exact same grain of sugar as it was 50, 100 years ago, for that matter?
It is exactly the same. It's one of the most pure food ingredients known to man. Because the crystallization process is so efficient, nothing but sugar molecules can grow into that crystal lattice. So it's absolutely sucrose. It's no different than it's ever been in the 120-year history of Michigan Sugar.
And the northern United States, of course, is beet country. The southern is cane country. But is there any difference in the sugar?
There's no chemical difference in the sugar between cane sugar and beet sugar.
Interesting. We are here at Michigan Sugar. We'll be back with our guests, talk more about the industry, which provides tremendous income to the people of this region, and particularly the farmers that own this facility. That's all ahead. We are at Michigan Sugar, where today they will be introducing to the public and dignitaries that will be here the molasses desugarization facility. The ribbon cutting will take place at 11 a.m. There will be some speakers, including my guests today, then the ribbon cutting, and then they will have the MDS tour here to see how this facility operates. And we will take a break and be back after these notes.
Getting quality employees.
All right, we're back with you here on WSGW, broadcasting from Michigan Sugar, where today they introduce their brand new molasses desugarization facility. We are talking to the president and CEO of Michigan Sugar. He is Neil Junkie, and also with us is the vice president of operations, Nick Klein. So I was asking you during the break, Terry Henney, our farm director, showed up, and you mentioned that at the Saginaw County Fair they harvested some, as part of the competitions, some sugar beets which were huge. And is that good for the beets?
Yeah, the beet crop is growing really well this year, and as you know, different crop kids will exhibit crop examples, and boy, the beets are big this year already.
Does that translate into sugar?
It does, yep. Whether it's yield or higher sugar content, having a robust, healthy crop in the field this time of year is good for the crop and good for Michigan Sugar.
So other than wanting the world and having great yield and great sugar, which is more important?
Great sugar is more efficient for us. It takes more effort to extract sugar from a low sugar content beet. So That's actually one of our strategic initiatives, Art. We received board authorization to change our payment calculation. So in the past, we paid farmers' income or beet payment was more heavily driven by the yield and sugar. Well, now we've tilted the scale a little bit, and we are giving them full revenue for their recoverable sugar and charging the processing cost to the tons. So it just changes the focus a little bit. It aligns the incentive for our grower owners with the economic realities of our factory operations.
Like any business, you like to do forecasting. But in order for you to do forecasting, you have to know the weather, you have to know the sugar content of the beet, the market, you have to know all those things. Let's start with the sugar content of the beet. How early in the process do you know approximately what your sugar content's going to be?
Well, we're going to take yield samples next week. That'll be our second set of yield samples, and we will run the sugar content on those samples. So we'll get an indication. We've got a long historical database of what the sugar content has been at that same time of year. So we'll get our first peak next week, Art.
Has this warm weather that we've had been good or bad for beets?
Well, we've had perfect growing weather. We planted into good soil conditions. We got good stand counts in the fields, and we've had ample rain every week and lots of heat, and that's what beets love. So we do have a big crop in the field.
So, you know, when some of us are complaining about the heat or complaining about the rain, you're going, hallelujah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a terrible thing being a beet sugar company employee because we like it hot in the summer and then we like it cold in the winter. We always like bad weather, Art. Well, maybe
I remember that.
Maybe hot in the summer is okay.
Speaking of employees, something I didn't know you told me, because you're now extracting with a facility like this new desugarization facility, sugar all year round, you have more full-time employees now, don't you?
I'll let Nick field that one.
Yeah, so with this expansion, the MDS facility in itself has about 20 year-round employees dedicated just to this process. So while we doubled the capacity of the processing capacity of this plant, it requires additional folks to come in and manage the skilled trades, all the additional technology that went into this plant. So we have added and created more growth and opportunity.
This, of course, all this had to be approved by the owners, right? The farmers themselves.
That's correct, yep.
They were supportive, obviously.
Very supportive, yep.
You know, you go to a group of farmers who own a company and say, oh, yeah, we want to put $109 million in here. Did their eyes open up wide?
They did, yeah. This is the largest capital investment this company has ever made.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. And you've modernized a lot of the plants. I mean, technology has changed, hasn't it, in terms of the equipment and things of that nature?
Yeah.
Process hasn't changed much, but the way you get through it has changed.
Exactly, yeah. More efficient technology, more automation, more computer control, and automation and sensor technology that helps us be more precise with the process.
One of the things when you talk to industry, you talk to business owners, labor has been an issue. How is it for you because you need so many seasonal workers besides your full-time workers?
Well, through the COVID years was really tough. We had a lot of openings and we were having a hard time recruiting anybody. Thankfully, last summer we were able to work with our partners in the union, and we were able to increase our entry-level wage a little bit disproportionately so that we could attract more applicants for the openings that we had. And right now we're pretty well staffed, and we do have more applicants than we have jobs. So it's a great spot to be compared to where it was the last 2 to 3 years.
And when we talk seasonal employees, what's the season from when to when? Is it typically like September to March, or what's the...
It's we'll start our campaign in August, and some factories have what's called juice and storage that they process first, and then the beet campaign starts late August, early September, and that'll extend all the way through into April with the beet campaign, and then another 30 to 50 or 60 days for processing juice beyond that into May and even June.
I have to ask, being non-agricultural, growing up in New York City, I thought Elsie gave us all our milk. When a farmer looks at his field, and he's growing sugar beets, Is he eager to get them out of the ground early, or is he telling himself, no, if I wait, I'll get a better content out of my beets?
Well, sugar beets are what's known as an indeterminate crop, which means they keep growing until they freeze. And so leaving the sugar beets as long as possible increases both sugar content and yield up until those first killing frost in about mid-November.
So how do you convince a farmer in August to take his beets out of the ground?
Well, we have to compensate for them for the loss in growth and sugar accumulation. So we have what's called an early dig process and a pre-pile payment system that compensates them for the growth that they would have otherwise seen.
So all those things have to be taken into account. It's not as simple as putting the seed in the ground and then plucking it out and taking the sugar.
No, it's not simple at all. It's a complicated business art.
Why, boy, I hate to ask this question, why do farmers do what they do?
Well, farmers are some of the best people on the planet. They take big risks. They're subject to the weather. They never know what the outcome of their crop year is going to be, and they get out there every day and they get to it and get it done. So I got a lot of respect for farmers in general, and even more respect for sugar beet farmers, because sugar beet farming, on top of paying for the seed and the fertilizer and taking care of the crop, they also have to own the company, the processing assets, and they have to own millions of dollars worth of specialized equipment to harvest the sugar beets that you can't do anything else with a sugar beet harvester. It's a single-purpose machine. How
many farmers are we talking about?
Well, we have about 860 shareholders, and that's obviously...
Is a share per acre? Is that the way that's figured? How many acres you plant? Or
Well, the 860 is voting shareholders. The acreage that those 860 shareholders farm is 142,000. So they can own different numbers of shares that entitle them to grow an acre of sugar beets.
For the sugar industry, this really is the wave of the future, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
Because this company probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, would it?
No.
Because there was talk about it.
That's right. The cooperative structure saved this company back in 2002, and then the Monitor Sugar Company also was combined into Michigan Sugar as a cooperative. 100% of the beet sugar production in the U.S. today is cooperative owned. And what that does, the most powerful part of that, is it aligns the interests of the processor, the marketer, and the producer of the crop.
When a farmer plants sugar beets, do they have to rotate that acreage, or can they plant sugar beets year after year?
No, we need a rotation, at least 3 years, and preferably 4 or 5.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
So they have to have large acreage to be able to keep moving their sugar beets around.
That's right. Of the 142,000 acres of sugar beets we farm, it requires at least another 280,000 acres on top of that to provide the proper rotation.
Wow. All right, we're going to take a break. We are here at Michigan Sugar Company in Bay City, where they're going to introduce their molasses desugarization facility. And we will be back to tell you more about that and more about the sugar beet industry with our guests after these notes. All right, we're back with you, broadcasting from Michigan Sugar in Bay City. I'm Art Lewis, and with me, the President and CEO, Neil Junke, and the Vice President of Operations, Nick Klein, talking about the sugar beet business and the sugar industry. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, the federal government and the farm program. Has it been a help or a hindrance to the sugar industry?
A huge help, Art. The sugar program is part of the Farm Bill that gets enacted every 5 years, and we've had the sugar program in place for over 50 years. It's a critical program to manage the supply into the market and provide stable price stability is what it does for sugar farmers. So as I mentioned, this is a hugely capital-intensive business. To rebuild these factories today would cost over $4 billion. To invest in all of the farm equipment on the farm would be another couple $1 billion. And if the we were subject completely to foreign predators or predatory pricing from foreign countries. If this industry ever went away, it would never come back.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a number of years ago, was there not some contention with it because they were bringing in Mexico sugar and restricting the total amount you could sell?
That's correct. Yep. After NAFTA,
That's what it was.
Yep. The Mexican industry ramped up production and flooded the market and depressed sugar prices to the point where there was forfeitures of sugar under the loan program, and the industry was really suffering. Now, the industry, along with its trade partners, pressed the Department of Commerce and successfully won a World Trade Court ruling that they were dumping sugar at anti-competitive prices. So that resulted in a negotiated settlement between the Mexican government and the U.S. government. It's called the suspension agreements. And what those agreements allow is Mexico gets the first right of access to whatever sugar the U.S. market needs over and above domestic production. So it just stabilized things. It gives the Mexicans industry a predictable market and a predictable price that that industry can live with as well.
Because at the time, and this just stuck in my brain, I have no idea if it's correct or not, but I heard a number like 10 cents a pound when they were shoving Mexican sugar in here.
Right,
which wasn't sustainable, right?
No, not sustainable at all. Mm-mm.
So today, what's the price of sugar today? Has it suffered the same inflationary problems that everything else has suffered? Obviously, it costs you more to produce.
It has, yeah. All of our costs of production are up. The cost of production on the farm are up. Diesel is up. Everything has gone up. Thankfully, sugar price has gone up as well, mostly due to some global weather problems. There's been El Nino conditions that negatively affect the sugar production in the Pacific Rim region, India, Thailand, those places. Brazil had a record crop, but unfortunately our partners in Mexico, the Mexican cane sugar industry, had a terrible drought the last 2 years too, so that has elevated sugar prices domestically, which the bulk wholesale price today, Art, is about 50 cents a pound.
And how was it, say, 10 years ago? How much difference is it from what it was?
10 years ago it would have bumped around in the 35 to 40 cent range.
Still, inflation took its hold, but it's reasonable. It's not out of reach.
Reasonable price, yeah.
I also remember, and correct me if I'm wrong, at one time we were having a problem with Canada sending in sugar that wasn't 100% sugar. It was sugar mixed with something else. Sugar-like product, right?
The industry called that stuffed molasses, and what they were doing is putting extra sugar into a molasses-like product, and they were importing it without paying the appropriate duty.
Is that what that was?
It was a trade play, yep.
And didn't some of it end up on shelves, though, in bags?
It did.
Partially sugar and, I don't know, one of the croses, sucrose, dextrose, whatever it was.
I don't know if it became a retail product directly, but it was extracted and refined and sold into the industry.
Yeah, because I remember there were warnings to bakers that it would not produce the results that U.S. sugar was going to produce.
Oh.
Because of the content of the bag.
Gotcha.
It was probably 10 years ago, I think, maybe more. So this industry, in terms of economic impact to the region, what are we talking about?
Well, $700 million in gross revenue, 100% flowing into the region, to the farmers, to the trucking companies, to the implement dealers, the seed companies, the co-op elevators that support the crop. That turns over multiple times. I'm not an economist, but I've heard 3 to 5 times over again. So we're talking, billions of dollars of impact, economic impact to the region.
If you had the junky crystal ball and you look 5 or 10 years down the road, what's Michigan sugar going to look like?
Well, Michigan sugar is on a path going from good to great, Art. We are leveraging all of the strengths and advantages that Michigan sugar has inherently, and we are addressing the challenge areas where we need to get better. We're going to be the best damn sugar company in North America.
Period. We'll take a break on that. That's a good way to end a segment. We'll come back and finish up our discussion with our guests here at Michigan Sugar after these notes.
Did you know your life
All right, we're back with you at Michigan Sugar, where today they are introducing their brand new MDS, which is a molasses desugarization facility. Say that 3 times fast. And with us is the president and CEO of the company, Neil Junke, and also the vice president of operations, Nick Klein. So, Nick, you're the VP of operations. From an operations standpoint, how did this factory get off the ground?
It took off really well. In fact, working with our technology partners who have built these facilities in the past, this one started up literally the best in the world was their comment. On May 20th, we turned on the switch and started feeding this plant molasses, and it really comes down to the dedication and the focus from the MDS team that was on site here leading this project. In less than 1 day, we were producing the extract juice, which contains the sugar. And
out of curiosity, how do you get that molasses over here?
So we have a molasses unloading building that was also part of this project, and that's to unload molasses from our 3 other factories. In addition,
Coming in on the rail cars.
Coming in on rail cars. In addition to the molasses that's generated right here in the Bay City factory that gets pumped over via a pipeline.
That's what so it's a pipeline and the building next door, which is direct feed.
Correct.
And so from the time you get, I'll pick a number because I really don't know the terms, but from the time you get a gallon of molasses, how much sugar do you get out of it, and how long does it take?
Well, with this plant, we can process up to 650 or over 650 tons per day of molasses, and that
a day?
A day, and that equates to about over 4,000, nearly 5,000 hundredweight of sugar per day.
Now, does that sugar then go to consumers, or is most of that for commercial packaging?
It would go to either.
So the sugar is sugar.
Sugar is sugar.
What you put in one of those huge hundredweight commercial bags is the same stuff you put in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah, we have quality standards for everything that we produce and put into our silos, which eventually goes to our customers.
So how many products are we talking about out of a sugar beet? We have, obviously, the sugar, the end product.
Yeah, well, you've got your sugar that comes out, the pulp I mentioned earlier, which becomes an animal feed, and then the molasses. And in the molasses, when it comes into desugarization, we actually are able to break that down into, one, the juice with the sugar in it, and then 2 other co-products, one called betaine and one called CMS. And the betaine co-product is a high amino acid product that we sell for animal feed. And then the CMS would be all the non-sugars and what we call the salts, which also goes out for an animal feed.
Oh, is that right? So basically, everything comes out of that ground is going to be human or animal feed.
That's right.
Very little waste.
There's no waste.
There's no waste.
That's right.
Not too many products can say that. Not too many products can say that. So
we recapture the dirt that gets hauled in with the beets, and that gets back out on fields and land applied. Our precipitated calcium carbonate, another byproduct from processing, that's land applied as a soil amendment. It's very healthy for the soil and actually reduces root diseases. So,
with the new seeds and the resistance to the various diseases, has the input cost to the farmer gone down in terms of having to put on fungicides, fertilizers, all those things?
Well, the input costs have shifted because the seed companies they're great partners, but they're crafty marketers. So they charge more for their seed, and it offsets the reduction in cost elsewhere.
So for the farmer, the input cost has remained relatively stable.
Yes.
We're taking into account inflation for everything you use, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So because equipment costs more now, that $100,000 tractor or combine is now close to $1 million. All of those numbers going in, has the payment to the farmer kept up with it from a percentage standpoint?
Well, over the long run, yes. Recently, even more so, with the sugar price rising to around 50 cents a pound. Last year's beet payment was very good, and we're expecting another very good beet payment this year.
Do you see a time, Neil, when you're going to build one of these buildings someplace else?
Oh, I don't know, Art. The molasses plant here completes our strategy with regard to molasses. We have a lot of work to do, a lot of blocking and tackling to do in our plants. They're 120 years old. We have a lot of maintenance capex and refinement and investment to do within the plants. It's always a dream to possibly build a new factory someday, but that would be over $1 billion. And right now, that's not even really on our radar screen.
When you look at it, though, and you look at these factories, other than the outside shell, the building itself, the interiors have gone through over the decades lots of changes, haven't they?
They have, yeah. They've been doubled and tripled and quadrupled in capacity. The main processing equipment has been replaced probably 2 or 3 times over in the 120-year life.
I want to go back to what we were talking about earlier about the federal government and the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is still working its way through. It hasn't been approved yet, has it?
It has not. It was supposed to be completed in 2023. Would have been 5 years. Yeah. The last time was 2018. But
so
now
what do you operate on? Is the other one extended until you get the new one?
Yes, the Farm Bill was extended for 1 year. Mm-hmm.
So now you have to get Congress off their duffs to do something.
Exactly.
It's been a tough road to hoe. But it seems to me, no matter which party in Washington represents the state of Michigan, the one thing they all seem to be is supportive of Michigan agriculture.
That's true. Very, very true.
Which side of the aisle.
And nationally.
Which is a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. The farm program and the sugar program in particular has as strong a bipartisan support right now as it ever has.
Which is good. Now all you got to do is get it out of Congress.
Yep.
Good luck.
Thank you. We need it.
In terms of the facility here in Bay City, now that you have this facility, anything else coming on that you need to talk about?
Well, the opportunity for cogeneration. Right now, we don't generate any of our own electricity here in the plant, and there's, in recent years, new technology using jet turbines and turbine generators to generate electricity. So that's on our pre-engineering list that we'll be scoping that out and doing the financial calculations to hopefully support a project like that here.
You mentioned turbines. I remember the first time I ever went in the plant here, and in walking around, they took me into, the dryer room where those big jet engine things are. I thought I was standing behind a jet turbine because that's what they looked like, and that's how they fire, and that's how you dry that sugar, doesn't it? How long does it take?
Well, in Bay City, actually, we've upgraded that dryer system. So Bay City is the only of our 4 factories which has what's called a steam dryer. So we have a pressurized vessel to dry our pulp.
Wait. Steam and drying don't seem to go together. Steam produces moisture. How does this work?
Right. So there's a fan that spins at several hundred RPMs that's turning the pulp through various chambers around this pressurized dryer, pushing the moisture out of the pulp. And we're actually able to recover that moisture and use it to boil our juice in our process. And then the dryer also has 0 emissions.
Wow. So you've got the best of both worlds there.
Yep.
Yeah, the industry has changed, hasn't it?
It has. Yep.
Well, we thank you both for spending a little time with us and talking about this industry you love and we appreciate around here because it's an important part of the economy and always will be. And we wish you well in the future, and glad to hear this plant's doing so well. Nice investment, $109 million, right?
Absolutely.
Very good, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Art.
Neil Junkie, President, CEO, and Nick Klein, Vice President of Operations for Michigan Sugar. We'll take a break, and we'll be back and tell you what's ahead.
I'm Paul Young, candidate.
We'll do it for the Art Lewis Show today from Michigan Sugar, where they are about to introduce to the public a group of dignitaries and invited guests, the Molasses Desugarization Facility, ribbon-cutting ceremony after some presentations. The program features Rob Clark, the Senior Director of Communications and Community Relations. They'll have a video presentation called The Dawn of a New Day, and then the overview about how things are going to get sweeter from Neil Junkie, President and CEO, Nick Klein, Vice President of Operations, both of them who were with us. Jim Rogenbuck, who is a co-op board chairman, Jim Raum, President and CEO of Bay Future Incorporated, and Terry Spencer, Monitor Township Supervisor. Then they'll have a ribbon cutting, and they'll be touring this MDS facility here at Michigan Sugar. Coming up on Focus, we'll chat with Mike Stoddard from Westside Decorating Center, find out what's going on there in their newly expanded showroom and product lines. Before that, though, news from CBS, the national and international report. And then, of course, we will have the local report. Michael Percher will bring you up to date on what's happening in the region and the state of Michigan. I'm Art Lewis. We'll be back on Focus. Before that, though, the news comes up next.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I'm Steve Kathan. Delta Airlines has tallied the losses from its week of turmoil. Thousands of cancellations caused by the tech issue that affected companies around the globe. CEO Ed Bastian on CNBC.
This cost us $500 million over a period of 5 days between not just the lost revenue, but the tens of millions of dollars per day in compensation and hotels. And we did everything we could to take care of our customers over that time frame.
And the jet maker Boeing, facing its own list of issues, has named a new CEO and reports a $1.4 billion loss in the second quarter. Rising tensions in the Middle East after an attack inside Iran that killed a Hamas leader. Tehran blames Israel. CBS's Cammie McCormick.
The killing led to calls for revenge in Tehran. And after the assassination of a Hezbollah leader in Lebanon, an official warned things could spiral out of control. In Singapore, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said an end to the war in Gaza is imperative.
I'm not going to speculate on what impact any one event might have. I think nothing takes away from the importance of getting to the ceasefire.
The latest killing could prompt Hamas to pull out of the negotiations.
Israel acknowledges it carried out the strike in Lebanon, but it has said nothing about the assassination in Iran. Nearly 400,000 acres have burned in that major wildfire in Northern California. Around 200 structures, including homes, have been destroyed. Thousands forced to flee.
We knew the fire was coming. I didn't think it was actually going to take our house. The fiance is grabbing pictures off the walls and keepsakes. And first, I didn't understand why. I just wanted her to get the family out. And now I get it, now that it's all gone.
Triple-digit heat is expected in the region over the next few days. A new fire near Loveland, Colorado, has prompted some people there to leave their homes. After spending more than $1 billion to make the Seine River cleaner and safer for Olympic athletes, CBS's Wendy Gillette in Paris reports there was a payoff of sorts today.
That's a worker drawing a water sample from the Seine River. After heavy rain over the weekend, bacteria levels were deemed safe enough for the men's and women's triathlons to be held this morning. Former triathlete Renee Tomlin from Arkansas watched the women's race.
I think these athletes, they're professionals. They've been on the circuit. They know what it's like to compete in water all across the globe that, might be dirty at some times.
The U.S. women's rugby team medaled for the first time ever today, taking bronze. Wall Street, the Dow is up 180 points. The NASDAQ is up more than 400. This is CBS News.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Welcome back, Summer.